Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Challengers of the New World Season 1. This is game number 3 in a best of 15 series between Aizamk and Umeu, where every civilization has to be played. Or at least for this first season, every vanilla civilization has to be played, though in future seasons we can certainly look into adding the Asian dynasties and war chiefs as well, but for now, just the original 8. And the format of this event is essentially first to 8 wins. That is what a best of 15 is, if you think about it. First to 8 wins. That is 1 win with each different vanilla civilization, and is indeed exactly what they have to do. They must defeat each other once with each different vanilla civilization in order to be declared victorious for this event. Though we will talk more about that in a moment, because right here, right now, we see Aizamk's Explorer going for a 45 coin treasure there, guarded by just 2 snow monkeys, going to creep out like an absolute monster. Really easily going to bring those 2 down without losing too much HP as well. I'm going to pick up a sizable amount of coin, considering considering how many guardians are guarding it. 45 coin is quite a lot for just killing 2 snow monkeys. Very, very easy to do. But yes, coin normally isn't a very good treasure at all. Normally not very desirable. Food and wood and even XP are just far more useful. There are far more applications early on than coin does. Coin does not help you age up any faster, unless you're playing as the Dutch, in which case it does help you age up faster. And here we have Aizamk playing as the Dutch. Lo and behold, in the south of the map, in the colour red, with 3 settlers on the coin mine there. They are going to stay on coin until he has all of the coin he needs to queue all of the settlers he wants to make in the Discovery Age, since, of course, Dutch settlers cost coin, as we all know. Now, since he found 45 coin, these 3 settlers will be able to switch back to food 45 units of coin sooner, meaning they will be able to generate more food overall, and you can essentially speaking of food, though, he finds 75 food just there, a stockpile of coriander seeds worth 75 food, a really nice treasure find there, especially considering he found 45 coin as well before he managed to click the age up button. But yes, you can sort of consider coin treasures as food treasures for the Dutch, since, you know, they have to collect coin anyway to get all their settlers, and yeah, I've already covered that, never mind. Dutch, really interesting civilization with regards to treasure collecting. They get the Explorer, they get this Envoy, which helps them scout, similar to the Native Scout, I suppose. Not all civilizations have an extra unit. He's going to help you find all of the big treasures. And speaking of big treasures, here we see the enemy Explorer, Blue Explorer, Umeu, going for 80 food there as well. A nice collection of food for him. But yes, the Dutch, they get these 2 units to help them find all of the treasures, and an added bonus is that coin is a really useful treasure to them, when normally it was playing as another civilization, it is not. So I think Dutch are very good treasure collectors. It's not really a very relevant point, but certainly an interesting one nonetheless, I think. Now clicking up to the next stage with the Quartermaster, Umeu only on 450 food, now 500. And he found an 80 food treasure at a very large food deficit, all things considered, compared to that Dutch player. And that really goes to show how fast Dutch just ages up anyway, though he did find some pretty nice treasures, all things considered. But yes, Umeu in the north of the map, in the colour blue, playing as the British. Now, something that may or may not have slowed him down to the colonial is that he does have 2 manors. He may have spent some gather time really early on for that manor, though he may not have done. He might have started with all the wood for that manor. I cannot be sure. But a lot of the time, British players, when they know there's not going to be a lot of colonial aggression at the early game, they will indeed collect the wood for a second manor, which is definitely advisable. I believe VeniVidivisiW says that. Goodspeed is also a fan of that. Let's not go into the pro names who suggest building extra manors. It does sound kind of obvious. But yes, here we have Umeu switching his settlers over to the wood. He wants to gather up lots of wood, namely to build manors with, but more importantly because he does not have a 400 wood shipment. Otherwise these guys would still be on food and coin. British probably would be a bit strong with a 400 wood politician, so you know they have to chop all of that wood in transition for their military buildings and such, and that is what he wants to do. He wants to stockpile 200 wood for a military building, I would imagine. So we'll see what he wants to build a little bit later on, but so let's switch over to Aizamk in just a moment. But first of all, I want to say that Umeu here is at a civilization advantage. He has an advantage to this game because he lost the previous game. And I'll switch over to Aizamk and we'll explain exactly why this player here has a civilization advantage. But Aizamk about to hit up to the next stage there, already building his first bank, collected all of the resources for that during transition to the colonial age, and has 400 wood on the floor from his age up politician. That is enough wood for a second bank. He now has a bank wagon on the way, though a lot of the time players will send the 700 wood shipment, which is enough wood for 2 banks, meaning you can have all 4 banks out by the time you're, well, at least you'd have you'd have the wood for all 4 banks by the time your first shipment arrives, but instead, not going to do that. Going to go with the bank wagon, meaning he'll have 3 banks, but he'll have a lot more food since you won't be spending the food on the banks, so he could probably age up a bit faster. There is that, since banks do have a food requirement on their building cost. But anyway, Aizamk here, lots of banks, as we know, and he won the previous game, okay? So, because of that, in this game that we're watching right now, he had to pick his civilization first. And that was a requirement I set. So, you know, picks this civilization, the Dutch, and once he's decided that he wants to play it, he has to lock it in. He cannot change it once it is locked in. We'll switch over to Umeu, who is, of course, back over here, now sending 700 wood. That is his first home city shipment. I imagine he'll build lots of manors out of that, or at least that is the intention. And he can also add in a second military building. You can see that he's built a stable with the wood that he collected in transition and is queuing some hussars. Hussars are going to be for raiding. His opponent is not going to be adding in very much colonial pressure. And for that reason, he can just raid. He can get some aggression in. The British player, actually, strangely enough, going to be the aggro in this game, I suppose. But there is that. Umeu, since he lost the previous game, in this game gets to pick his civilization after Aizamk. Therefore, he can kind of engineer himself a civilization advantage if he knows which civilizations are good in which matchups. And let's be honest, some civilizations are better against other civilizations in this game. That is the case. But British versus Dutch is by no means weighted particularly heavily either side. It's actually quite a fair matchup, I would say, though British is slightly favoured. Here we have 5 hussars now, just out of the barracks. They're going to head over to his opponent and perhaps do some raiding. We see 5 settlers now in queue. That barracks is now up. Going to go for the musketeer-hussar combo. They complement each other really well with regards to the units that they counter. And he has queued steel traps with some of the wood from the 700 wood. Let's switch over to Aizamk and see if there are any settlers for him to kill. We see one here, which is gathering food. He was using that to bring these herds back, and it's actually going to lose that settler. Really not too good there because, well, you don't want to lose settlers. And normally, you could actually say Aizamk playing a little bit sloppy here, since, of course, well, normally you'd bring these settlers back. There's another one here which was gathering from here. Now bringing that back, doesn't want to make the same mistake, and normally you'd bring them back as soon as you hit up to colonial or just afterwards, because you'd be worried about your enemy having units on the prowl. But here we see his second shipment by the looks of it. Yeah, bank wagon, followed by 8 pikemen, using these to be aggressive. Normally these are a fairly defensive shipment. Now coming in, perhaps going to lose a pikeman there. Lots of hit points going down. Very low hit points indeed. That musketeer finishing it off, losing a pikeman there. And actually, I'd say Umeu benefiting from this more. I mean, of course, he's lost about, you know, half hit points on the market. That's like 50 woods worth of damage. Whereas a pikeman is worth 40 wood and 40 food. Now going to come in there, perhaps going to engage a hussar. 8 times 5 multipliers versus cavalry. But perhaps a little bit of command lag there, not being able to use the pikemen to engage. But then again, perhaps he didn't want to engage. I mean, those hussars would easily bring down those pikemen, even though it's not that cost efficient. But since those musketeers are there nearby as well, he would be able to bring those pikemen down. And perhaps, you know, Aizamk didn't want to engage that after all. But surprisingly enough, Aizamk actually going for a stable this game. Normally, Dutch players, or a lot of the time, Dutch players will go, oh, coming in here, perhaps to kill some settlers, but Aizamk being very quick on the ball to bring those back, and perhaps Aizamk wanting to engage there, but no, he's not going to. His army's clearly not equipped to deal with this. This is perhaps why he should have gone with a barracks, because skirmishes, instead of hussars right now, would be very, very useful indeed. He has, of course, the pikemen to defend skirmishes with from those cavalry. That's why he sent that shipment, and that is why Dutch usually, well, often does send an 8 pikeman shipment. Now sending 700 wood. 700 wood is a very nice shipment, going to give him all of the population, well, for the housing. He can build lots of houses with that, perhaps get his second military building up, you know, for the fortress age. That's what he's preparing for. That's why Aizamk, I think, is playing Dutch on this map, because you start with an outpost. And Dutch have a very boomy playstyle. He wants to get up to the fortress age. You can clearly see he's getting the resources for that. We'll switch over to Umeu. You can see Umeu is booming. That's very much what British like to do. He's got 700 wood here, 5 settlers, 4 settlers, you know, just booming away. But whilst those resources are coming in, he's able to train a few military units. Nothing like an all-in aggro. But certainly able to harass the Dutch player, make the Dutch player work for the Fortress Age. Aizamk going to have no problems getting the Fortress Age in queue, but certainly going to lose some settlers and be, you know, pushed around a bit by this aggro here. Maybe lose a house, maybe lose a production facility such as this stable, and just, you know, all of this aggro from the British player here is going to make the Dutch fortress a little bit weaker, because that's where the Dutch really do come to fruition with those 4 banks. Very, very strong economy, very, very quickly indeed when they get 4 banks up, and in the fortress age. They have skirmishers and reuters and very, very hard counters to the units that Umeu is training here. Skirmishers very strong against musketeers, reuters very strong against hussars here. But actually, 5 more hussars coming in. Looks like Umeu has a very large army here, very large colonial mass, going to be able to engage Aizamk here. Aizamk now up to fortress, though he doesn't receive any extra units upon hitting up because he used the age up fast option. Though calling Minutemen, Minutemen still not going to call off Umeu. Umeu is still going to fight this because Minutemen, despite them being there, he's still going to be able to kill off all of this colonial military that Aizamk has managed to mass. Perhaps he should have gone for skirmishers, would be far more useful than the cavalry. Perhaps playing a little bit greedy because he went for cavalry. He wanted to do some raiding just like Umeu did, since the British aren't really that aggressive early game. But I think here, you know, the cavalry ultimately not being very useful in defending his town here, and him losing his colonial mass, no longer is able to call Minutemen here, and well, managing to salvage 2 hussars, but really hasn't done any damage with them. I just think skirmishers would have been more secure here. Here, actually, you see Umeu Aizamk bringing that explorer back, trying to lure those 3 musketeers towards the town centre. If you spotted that there, actually going to lose a few more, but yes, he can no longer stay on his base. Umeu does not want to continue the pressure. He's lost a lot of military doing that, though he, you know, the purpose of it really was to slow the Dutch mass down, and actually, Aizamk only managing to get 1 reuter out of his first batch there. This is also going to slow his mass down. The point of the British coming in here was to kill off all the colonial units, and that's going to damage the Dutch mass, and here, not managing to get all 5 reuters in that first batch means that his mass is going to be fairly slow, though he does have 9 reuters out from his first shipment, and I think this is what Umeu is worried about. Otherwise, these hussars would be in his base raiding, but he knows that that is the shipment the Dutch have, and these would pop out. These move faster than cavalry. They catch up with his hussars. They'd kill them. Ultimately, you don't want that, so he's going to escape now that the Dutch player's up to fortress. And this is where the Dutch player really does shine. Banks, crazy, crazy economy, very, very quickly. Really, really strong unit combination. This is where he needs to get that mass up, though unfortunately the mass is a little bit damaged due to the fact not getting so many out. That settler there now on below half hit points. Really not that many military units there to defend this off with. Managing to kill a settler. Aizamk, very successful raid just there, not taking very much damage on those reuters at all. Starting to get that mass up, though it could be larger. The Dutch really needs to get that mass going quickly before this British economy really takes over. Let's switch over to Umeu and see what he's got. He's got 600, 700 wood, 5 settlers, 4 settlers. Really strong boom. Now going up to the fortress age with a 46 settler economy, starting to train lots of longbowmen, and of course he's going up, I believe, with the adventurer, who will give him 7 longbowmen as well. This is going to be really strong. Go in, trying to kill that settler, really low hit points, 0 out of 202 HP apparently, and now in range of 10 longbowmen, going to lose lots of reuters very, very quickly. Longbowmen very, very efficient in what they do, with a 17 damage times 2 multiplier versus ranged cavalry, staying in range of these longbowmen far too much, I think, losing far too many reuters. The mass definitely being damaged. I think what Aizamk was trying to do there was he knew he had 5 skirmishes, and by the looks of it, 2 hussars there, going to join the reuters, and he thought perhaps with all of that, despite the fact that longbowmen counter reuters, he would be able to gang up on all of the, you know, if you have more units than your opponent, even if those units do counter your units, you can kind of gang up and kill them there. I think what he was trying to do was exactly that. We see 5 hussars. He should have waited for those before engaging. He's just lost too many reuters here. It's not very efficient at all, and now that the British player is up to fortress, he's got this 10 longbowman shipment on the way, a crazy amount of hussars here. This engagement does not look very favourable for the Dutch player. He needs a larger army. The British economy really coming to fruition here. Cavalry coming in to kill off those skirmishers, not too good at all. Is not enough anti-cavalry to defend that. Hussars now coming in from Aizamk. This is what he should have waited for before engaging in the first place. They do kind of scare off some of the British cavalry there, only managing to salvage 4 skirmishers though, and actually, despite having lost so many units early, this Dutch player, he does look in a fairly okay position though. Let's switch over to him. We see Aizamk has 4 hussars now on the way. They are going to join up with the rest of it here, and the reason I say he's not in such a bad position as we kind of think that he is because all that is left here for this British player is longbowmen. He's got nothing but longbowmen. Longbowmen suck on their own. They really don't do very well against cavalry, and that is exactly what Aizamk is adding in. Veteran cavalry. Veteran hussars really going to tear through these longbowmen, though I do think the British player should be okay. We'll switch back to him. He does have lots of shipments on the way. 5 dragoons about to pop. 5 hussars about to pop as well, and there are just so many longbowmen there anyway that they're going to be able to focus down these hussars, and, you know, that'll be that. Then now these hussars are gone, well, what can the Dutch do? He's going to have to get back and start, you know, thinking about where his units are coming from. He just needed more units. He lost too many early on, and that, you know, and missing that first batch of 5 reuters, and just losing his colonial military, and losing his reuters trying to kill settlers and random hussars, you know, and he just didn't get the mass that he needed to overwhelm the British player when he was supposed to. And now the British player has this crazy economy and is in the fortress Fortress Age, and has veteran longbowmen, and has lots of shipments on the way. By the way, that is why the British player is sending shipments. British don't normally like shipments for military. They prefer like 8 settlers and upgrades and shit like that. But, you know, these 10 longbowmen and 5 hussars really are necessary to deal with the Dutch mass. And that is exactly what they have done. They have dealt with the Dutch mass. And now Dutch is not very formidable. I think the reason British was selected in this game is because British in a boom war is king. It counters everything that is boom-wise. Because, you know, Dutch, very strong boom, but it fizzles out. They have 4 banks, and after the 4 banks are fully constructed, and bear in mind they're constructed quite early on, you know, you can no longer really boom that far unless you send the cards that enable you to build more banks. But British, let's switch over, well, we're already looking at him, by the way, here, sitting on his opponent's hunt's going to force Aizamk off that coin mine there, going to have to go down to this one in the bottom, I suppose, and also off the hunts. Aizamk is now going to have to gather from the berries here, now going to siege down this artillery foundry, really not too good for him at all. Aizamk does have a fairly okay amount of military units, though there are plenty. As you can see, yeah, now sending Yeoman, this is the kind of stuff that British players like to send. Anyway, switching over to Aizamk, see what he's got. 1 cannon in production, but not very much coin. Being forced off the coin mine there might mean you will only be able to get 1 cannon out, and 1 cannon is just not as good as 2. Like, 1 cannon is weak on its own, I think, because all of these longbowmen could just focus it down. Longbowmen have the same range as a falconet, so that's definitely something that could happen. Anyway, Umeu, let's switch over to him. I was talking about the rate at which these civilizations boom. Let's take a look at the British here. They have 16 out of 20 manners there, and he still hasn't sent the 8, settler shipment either. British really, they have, like, their bonus lasts forever. Their eco bonus just lasts, like, 20 minutes into the game, whereas Dutch, 4 banks and you're done. British, 20 manners lasts ages. They just can boom so much harder. And there was that window of opportunity where Dutch really had to push and overwhelm the British, but was unable to do so. And at this point in time, Umeu is just sitting here on the defensive, waiting for Aizamk to push out, but he's not going to, because he doesn't have the units to do it now. He's going to be a miracle, really, to get back in this, because British is, at this point in the game, just like, yes, I just sit here and boom all day long. I am just going to boom here all day long and just get further and further ahead with regards to score. This does not look very favourable for Aizamk. He's going to have to do something about all of this, all these units that British is massing up there. What could British do at this point in time? Well, he could do what he's doing right now, bring these units down here, and you see these settlers gathering food. He could be pressuring this food. I don't think Umeu is pressuring the food as much as he needs to, or could do, in order to force Aizamk off. He could end the game a bit sooner, I suppose. Why is he leaving? Oh, he does not see them, ladies and gentlemen. This is the importance of scouting. Always scout the black areas of the map, no matter how small, because your opponent could be gathering food there. I suppose, this Red Explorer here, identifying the large army, and he knows that perhaps that Umeu is coming for these settlers. He's now going to move these back off. He does not want those 4 to die. Want to conserve as many settlers as he can. Let's switch over to Aizamk and see what he has planned. A fort going up. This is interesting. Going to expand the, make the game go on a bit longer. See if he can drag this out. Aizamk is a guy of miracles. He really can work miracles. We'll see what he can do. The fort, though, is here to take him into the industrial age, I suppose. Get him up, to the next age where he has access to that ridiculous, what is it, this one here, the Religious Freedom Church card that allows you to send 30 guard musketeers and crazy amounts of stradiots. And, by the way, he has some decent mercenaries in his deck. Hackapels is questionable. I'm not sure about that one. They're very, very weak with regards to HP. They do have a ridiculous hand attack, though. We'll see if he can bring that into play. But let's talk about the civilizations being picked here. British do not like to be pressured early game. Dutch generally does not do that. Dutch likes to go up to fortress, therefore British seems to be a solid pick. Also, British can outboom the Dutch. That also might be why we see, British being picked here. The Dutch can be aggressive, and Aizamk certainly is a player that can, turn the meta game on its head and do something you do not expect and be aggressive, and that could have worked out for Aizamk since he is crazy like that. But, Dutch don't like to do that. It's not as good as their fortress. They'd rather go up to fortress where they excel with these 4 banks, but in this particular game, not managing to pull that off, and I think missing his window of opportunity, not really being able to mass up a lot. But yes, now coming in, Umeu going to come in, see what he can do. Turn the fog of war, and he does not know that this fort exists just yet. He now sees it going up. Perhaps he's going to siege it down, though it is far too far built, really, to do anything about it. And for this reason, none of his units have any siege potential. They're just culverins and longbowmen and dragoons. Really, he's not going to be able to bring down a fort, and any fighting besides this fort could really work out favourably for Aizamk. So Umeu isn't going to want to engage there. As I said earlier, I do think Umeu could be, raiding a bit better, perhaps forcing him off his hunts, and could really, resource starve this player. But does he really need to? He's playing as British with these crazy economies. 77 settler economy right there. Let's switch over to Aizamk. We see 42 settlers. Let's bring up the calculator, because, of course, we do have to value those banks as something. Banks generate coin, at a rate of, I believe, 2.75 coin per second, which is the equivalent of 4.5 settlers, though you can upgrade the rate at which settlers gather coin. You cannot upgrade the rate at which a bank gathers coin. Therefore, as the game goes on, banks depreciate in value and are no longer worth 4.5 gatherers. So we'll value them at I don't know, 3.5 gatherers. That sounds fair. 3.5 multiplied by 4 is equal to 14, plus 42 settlers is equal to a 56 settler equivalent economy, without looking at upgrades, because I'm not entirely sure what, market upgrades they do have. But what did I just say? Let's bring up the calculator. I cannot remember my short term. 56, there it is. Okay, what does Umeu have? 77! You see what I'm saying? He just needs to sit here and just let the game go on. The longer it goes on, the longer his advantage. But as I said, if he fights by this fort, Aizamk could be in a very favourable position. But now that Umeu sees this fort here, he's like, yeah, I've got to go up to industrial. That's exactly what he's going to do. Going up to the Tycoon for 1,000 coin. And then his artillery foundry, which he does actually have here. Since he trained some culverins earlier, he can make some mortars. And mortars are very strong at killing buildings. But then again, more importantly, he could just send the 3 rockets, which aren't great at countering buildings, though they do have so much range that they can just kill a fort without even being targeted. So we might see that more. Rocket's very, very strong. See what he can do. Let's switch over to Aizamk and see what he has in mind. Sending the Hackapel. This is an interesting one. Alright, this is perhaps where he's going to make or break. He's hoping that Umeu will come in, fight around the fort. Hackapels will pop just as he's pushing in. Hackapels will do crazy damage versus the longbowmen. In fact, if the Hackapels caught all of these longbowmen off guard, he would eliminate every single last one of them. Hackapel are so strong when it comes to hand attack. However, they do kind of suck in the HP department, especially considering that they are mercenaries. But yeah, we'll see what he can do. Those Dragoons definitely on the other side of the map at this point in time. And if the Hackapel were over here, hits would look, if he could, kill off the longbowmen in one go, like half of the army is definitely very manageable for what Aizamk has. He could definitely get back in the game if he was able to kill this. But these perhaps, if they were all together, the Dragoons were all together, perhaps not. Anyway, we see Aizamk here doing a little bit of raiding. I'm surprised this game he hasn't been more aggressive. Aizamk really does not like idle military units. He really likes to raid a lot, but this game perhaps being pressured a bit too much and feeling as if that he won't be able to. These guys popping out, the Hackapels are now out, coming towards these longbowmen. The Dragoons definitely on the other side of that, very much out of position. Looks like he's going to catch the longbowmen here. This does not look too good for Umeu, despite being in what he thinks a very, very favourable position. The Aizamk going to perhaps take control of this 1,000 coin near the outpost here. The Dragoons definitely very, very far away. The Hackapels, come on, get into the longbow. You'll be able to kill all of them, absolutely all of them. This does not look good for Umeu. Dragoons coming back. They are very strong against cavalry. I don't think he's going to make it. They're definitely... Oh, no, he's going to get there back in time. Umeu not going to lose this favourable position to some random Hackapel bullshit. Actually going to be able to bring these down with the crazy... Oh, no. Oh, they're just going down so quickly. It's not even funny. That is just not even funny. But despite having said that, this battle does look somewhat even. Longbowmen, definitely similar in stats to the skirmisher. 20 ranged attack with a fairly decent amount of hit points, 114. Your skirmisher on 18 damage with 144 HP. They've both got anti-cavalry, like the Dragoon / Reuter style unit. This does look fairly even. Where are the Hussars from the blue player? They definitely had some earlier. They should, when they come back, there's some Hussars now coming in. These will easily be able to, yes, more Hussars now coming in, being popped out of the stable. They're going to deal with these skirmishers. The longbowmen focusing, of course, down all of these Reuters. There are not enough Reuters there, really, to protect his skirmishers. They are going to go down. Though in this last, Aizamk's last attempt here to make the maximum efficiency out of his units is going to focus down the Dragoons. That's what skirmishers are good against. They have 18 damage times 2 versus ranged cavalry, such as Dragoons, and as you can see, frantically trying to kill them all. But Umeu, now that he's got Yeoman upgrades, all of his units are veteran, we see 3 rockets pop out. This is really, really strong. Aizamk now sending that religious freedom card that I was talking about earlier. We'll see what happens here. But yes, this does not look good. He's now definitely over 100 points ahead, and any illusions of this player getting back in the game are, just out the window. 50 settlers, is that his build limit? Umeu at 74 settlers, all 20 manas up, in factories on the way. 3 rockets here. Guard longbowmen, 25. What the fuck? These things are crazy strong with the crazy amount of range they have from the yeoman. It's absolutely ridiculous. Factories on the way. There is all that, and starting to siege down this fort. So we'll see what Aizamk can do. He's a crazy guy. He has his what, he's still in the game. He clearly has some idea of how he's going to get back into it. Aizamk, doesn't mess around. Anyway, well, he does mess around, but very much so, being the anti-meta game player that he is, likes to turn everything on his head. Not doing so this game, playing a very standard Dutch, actually. But yes, religious freedom. We'll see what he does. But let's talk about why this particular civilization was picked then. Dutch, of course, he won the previous game, had to pick first. The only information he had was on Yukon. I think it's because there's a tower. Sorry, this isn't Yukon, this is Siberia. The only information he had was the map, and the map is Siberia. We see a tower here. Every player on this map starts with a tower next to your coin mine here, though. Some hussars here coming around the back to try and kill some settlers and the skirmishers there. Reuters, these are still veteran skirmishers, remember. These are like guard longbowmen. This does not look good for him. This really does not look good for him. But yes, and aggressive strategies are less viable on this map due to the fact that there is a tower that kind of stifles any aggression, meaning that colonial rushes aren't so much a thing, meaning that every civilization is incentivized to go up to fortress, and that is exactly what the Dutch love to do best. I think Dutches, benefit from a tower quite a lot on this map because they go up to fortress all the time. But yes, now just hitting up to the industrial age, has all of the coin in queue for the 30 musketeer, 30 guard musketeers. He's going to get the stadholders. They're going to pop out, though the town centre looks like it's going to go down before they'll be able to arrive, though he does have a tower. I forgot about the tower, though I was just talking about it. They'll arrive at the tower, it's fine. I thought he wasn't going to receive them at all. And, but despite having these 30 musks, he's going to have to pull off some crazy stuff to get rid of these rockets, since rockets are really good. 300 damage, area 4 versus everything, and the musketeers would not be enough to bring down the rockets, so that is it. I think what he was trying to do was a little bit of what I like to do, what I call a pride thing, where you want to show your opponent what you were trying to do, which is, even though it's not going to win you the game or anything, you want to pop these out just to say, this is what I was trying to do, I'm not a noob. And Aizamk saying to Umeu here, yes, I was going for the stadholders, here they are, and I know they're not going to achieve anything, so I'll just resign, but I wanted to show you that they were going to arrive, so there is that. But yes, a very close game, actually. I think, it looks very weighted to Umeu's side, but that's because the game ended long ago, like way ages ago, really. It's just the Dutch had that really strong 4-bank economy, had to mass up units, but didn't manage to mass up enough to overwhelm the British player there and then. Allowed the British economy really to take a hold. They got up to fortress, British got veteran longbowmen, and it just went from there, really. Went really, really strong. More and more units just managed to outmass the Dutch, and that was the end of that, really. But I will thank you all for watching. Remember to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. And again, thank you for watching. My name has been Interjection, and I will see you next time.